Unleash the power. Unleash the power.
Hey guys, and welcome to the Ruckus Room today. We're going to be talking about local football teams and all of the kids that were ineligible to play on Friday night. And Alan, I didn't want to be involved with this, but I got inundated with calls on Friday night, and I'm like, yeah, okay, whatever. Like, you know what's crazy about this is news outlets that pick this story up over the last few days kind of skim over a lot. They don't say a lot of details.
Yeah.
And the other thing is the parents that were so quick to jump on bandwagons and blame parents and do all this. But I'm just going to say this. There was over 12 players between both schools that were ineligible to play for spring football. You're going to tell these kids 3 hours prior to the game. We need to go back to the administration, the coaches, and everybody, and hold them accountable, because it's their fault that all of these kids were ineligible. They're supposed to know the rules. They're supposed to know what's going on. And how do you know all of these kids aren't ineligible until 3 hours before the game?
Well, my thought on it is, first off, these are transfer kids, right?
Yeah.
So we had a podcast on this a few months ago. We brought the attention to people that there's an issue with this.
Yeah.
And, I mean, it should have been looked into then and not, like you said, 3 hours before the game.
Right. Like the one high school in particular, we're talking about Matanzas High School, and it was in the paper. Their starting quarterback, let me just show you. So from his junior year or his freshman year to now, he started FPC, transferred to Seabreeze, went back to FPC, transferred to Nice, went back to FPC, transferred to Mainland, went back to FPC, transferred to Matanzas. Okay. That's just one kid.
So where does he live?
He's lived in the same house, apparently, for the last several years. But these are the transfers. So just to show you there how many of their kids might be doing this not the correct way and just using people's addresses, or And when they transfer in January, it wasn't open enrollment to get a voucher or
Right.
Remember, because we went through this whole thing. It didn't start until, March, for your voucher or whatever it is to be accepted. So this goes back to wrestling and a couple of the other things that have been happening with transfers. But the craziest thing is, 11 different schools in Flagler County or in Volusia County played. They didn't have any transfer eligibility, but I know for a fact that kids have been shuffled down there too, because we played with a lot of them, and we're not having the issue. But all of a sudden in this county, 3 hours prior to the game, both schools are notified that these kids can't play. In Matanzas, they lost their QB, their center, and their starters. But the team always perseveres in it. They said here, and no matter what. But the problem is the administration. They didn't persevere because of your own school and you guys not knowing your rules or not enforcing them. And then all of these kids are sitting there like practicing, thinking they're going to play. And they're not. Like the one kid, Jordan Schendorf, I think it was the last name. He's a receiver. He's going to be an incoming senior this year. And 14-7, he ended up winning. He's never taken one rep as a quarterback in practice. So that was my other question. Like, don't you think that there should have a backup plan? Because their backup plan, they're saying, wasn't ready for varsity.
Well,
in the article,
what would happen in a game if the quarterback got hurt? That's what I'm
saying. Yeah, like, I don't know. Am I missing something?
There's a lot missing. There's a lot missing. And again, I go back to this issue with the transfers and the dates and all of that stuff. As we discussed earlier, you brought out in an earlier podcast that St. Augustine put everything on a website, crystal clear. We had it like mumbo jumbo, very muddy, as clear as potato soup, as my wife would say.
Yeah, exactly. And it says here, and we're going to go back to the FHSA rules and stuff that I've gotten. It says that all students who transfer to school after establishing residence at the school during the school year can immediately be eligible to participate in athletics during the school year. This means your child could potentially play spring football at the new school as long as it's approved through the FHSA guidelines and your school. There are kids that actually participated in spring track at FPC, but weren't eligible to play football. And I have not seen, and I went on the FHSA guidelines, and I even talked to Ashley when I transferred my son. And if he was eligible for spring sports and meet the cutoff date, which was before the winter break, he was allowed to play football. He was allowed to do any spring event, which was
any sport.
Yes, which was weightlifting, which he did. And if he wanted to participate in spring, which he chose not to, he could participate in it. So it makes no sense. Why could your kid run track but not play football in the same season? And at FPC, they ended up losing 70-14. I think they had over 8-something players that I know for a fact were out. One of them being the starting quarterback, and like I said, he was allowed to run track, but he's not allowed to participate in football. And he was told a couple hours before the game that he couldn't play along with the other players. Like, something's not adding up.
Well, in that instance, it seemed maybe he shouldn't have been able to do track either.
Well, and that's what I'm saying. Like, how many schools, especially in our area, and the kids are not eligible to actually participate in sports that had been playing in sports?
And I mean, none of that's the kids' fault. It's
No,
all
it's not the kids'
administration's fault or coach's fault. I mean, they know the rules, and they're either bending, breaking, or ignoring the rules.
Why I was reading the text, or when I was getting phone calls and I was reading comments and things like that, these parents are quick to say, you called in on my son. No, you should go back to your administration and find out why your son was playing ineligible these last 4 months. It's not a parent's fault for turning you in or doing
Right.
something. It's your fault for not knowing the rules, and it's your school's fault for not telling you.
And
And
how
for
would
the
a parent?
one, when your kid's been in 9 different schools in 3 years, you need to sit that one out because, hello.
Yeah, that's.
I mean,
that
you should know your
smells.
transfer rules exactly. But it says here, FHSA guidelines, the first thing that you should do is contact the athletic director at your new school to confirm the spring football schedule, your transfer deadlines, and if they're eligible. Somebody dropped the ball at both schools.
So who was it they should call it? Say?
The athletic director.
Well, okay. There's where the buck stops.
And when I brought my son in, because he's homeschool, when he got put into FPC for weightlifting in November, we had all of this done. He sent me the email. He did all of that, but obviously he missed the ball with some of these football transfers after the first of
That's
the
a
year.
lot of balls to miss.
It is a lot of balls to miss.
Eight you said earlier?
Yeah, well, at least from FPC.
From FPC,
3
yeah.
from what we know, at least from Matanzas. And it says here, ensure your academic record. So everybody has to have over a 2.0 to be able to play, along with knowing the eligibility dates. Submit your transfer paperwork to the FHSAA to make sure they're approved too, which hopefully that was done, but I'm still not understanding how all of this was missed.
Then the question that I have is, who called to notify the coaches that these students couldn't play?
So that's the funny part, because back on here, I'm reading some of these comments, and this is why I wanted to talk about this, because so many rumors are going out there and it's ridiculous. Like I said, the parents just blaming people or the schools blaming each other. It says right here, if everybody goes to one of the local news outlets, it's posted on their webpage, and you can see, I think there's like over 27 comments on this one area to be exact. It said there's a rumor going around that swirling around that does not help create more drama, and that's really what happened. These parents need to be sit this one out, and they need to go back to the school administration to see why this is never enforced. Apparently this rule has been in effect but has never been enforced in our community for years. This rule.
So they've been ignoring it for years.
So they've been ignoring this rule, apparently.
But somebody called it out.
And they're saying that one of the schools, Matanzas, called FPC because they found out last minute that their quarterback couldn't play. So then they turned on FPC. Well, we know they have players, and it turned into that kind of crap instead of just everybody being honest, knowing the transfer rules, your athletic director being held accountable for this, and explaining to all these transfers what the eligibility is and who can be able to play or not. I mean, they should have known that before the season started several weeks ago when they started practicing, don't you think?
Of course.
And yeah, I mean, I don't know, Alan.
I thought we were past all this stuff, but here it comes again. And so, I think on our end, I think we did a good job a few months ago in putting out the information about this transfer stuff and how clear the St. Augustine was and how muddy ours was online. And that
this is revolving around sports.
It's
just in these schools. I mean, you've heard about the corruption and all the other stuff.
Sports make money.
Here's
for the
one
schools.
right here. It says, "Great job, Jordan." And yeah, kudos to the kid who was a receiver who was thrown into a game with no reps and ended up winning 14-7 for Matanzas. Now they know they have another quarterback.
Yeah.
if they need one for the season, and maybe you should give them more reps during the summer.
Don't they cross-train everybody during practice to see who can play what position the best?
Obviously not. I mean, it says clear out he never had any reps in practice at all, and the backup quarterback that they were using, Matanzas, was not ready, from what the coach said, to go into a varsity game. He's an up-and-coming sophomore, so usually they're a little littler and they need more experience before they get thrown into a varsity game. Those boys are big.
Right.
So they're saying he wasn't ready, but again, there was no backup to the other quarterback that if he gets hurt during the game, who's going to play?
So they have a quarterback that becomes ineligible. They pick a guy who has no experience as quarterback to play quarterback, and he does an excellent job. And they have a quarterback that they were going to put in place eventually, but he's not ready yet.
Yeah. And then FPC had a quarterback who had to sit the bench. The other quarterback, he has been taking reps from what it said, and he's been the backup quarterback. He just had they played a tough team. They did play a tough team.
Sure.
And he had 3, I think, interceptions within the first half. It was like 40 to something at halftime. So, I mean, and they were playing a decent school, but they had over 8 people that were out and ineligible. FPC definitely had more than Matanzas that were ineligible, that were missed, and the ball somehow got dropped.
Yeah, but this rule's been here and been ignored in the past.
Apparently, and someone felt the need to exercise it 3 hours prior to the games Friday night. And then all of these kids, I mean, they should know, especially some of these have transferred out several times. They had to have known the rules, and that they've been playing not. If that's been the rule for a while, there's a lot of people that have been not following this rule.
And how many times did that one kid jump around to different schools?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 8 times, and he's an upcoming senior this year.
So he's
and
an upcoming.
He's
So
the
3
quarterback
years
for Matanzas. Yeah, he's been to 2 schools in Volusia County, 1 in St. Johns County, and back at FPC 1, 2, 3, 4 times, including Matanzas now in Flagler County. I don't know.
What's
exactly like. And this is not. I mean, this is a kind of extreme compared to some of the other transfers, but
that I agree with that. And that kid became ineligible to play.
That's the one who is ineligible to play. That's why
but he's bounced around that many times.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is something smells.
Exactly. But that will be the first parent to say, you called in on my kid instead of taking accountability for
Well, if
your
they
kid
jumped around that many times, if you don't know the rules, then it's all on you.
Go back to your administration. They should have told you when you left and you went into that school in January after the cutoff date. They should have told you that. It's no parent's fault but your own, or the school's fault. It's nobody else's. Take accountability.
Right.
That's what this whole thing is about, is taking accountability. And for some reason, Flagler County schools don't feel like they need to take accountability. Like, you have all these coaches in the paper. You guys are coaches of your team. What do you mean you don't know the rules? How do you not communicate with your administration? Like, I mean, you guys are saying you did this spectacular thing because you were left last minute. You should have known the rules.
They should have known the rules.
I mean,
and also the athletic director who looks like
at both schools.
Right.
Yeah.
They should have been the ones that handed down a letter to the coaches that said these guys can play, these guys can't play. In the beginning, not 3 hours before.
And all of these transfers happening, I'm sure they're on the up and up. I mean, it sounds like they are, since we've been dealing with this now for how many months?
Yeah, months and months.
Nobody wants to look into it till 3 hours before a game.
Right.
Like, it makes no sense. But since everyone wanted to bring this to my attention on Friday, we were going to talk about it today in the studio. Some of the news media outlets didn't cover it all, and they definitely didn't know why, except for that if you played ball at one school in fall, you're not allowed to play it again in spring, which apparently has been a rule for a while, never enforced until now. And we're going to cover it because you wanted to call me and talk about it and waste my time on Friday night, so we're going to talk about it.
Well, we've been blamed for.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
I'm like, my kid's not even in football, and I got blamed for making phone calls. I'm like, this is ridiculous. Let's talk about this because this is funny.
And on top of that, I don't know about you, I have no clue what kid is what and where they came from and whether they're eligible to play or not. So how would we make a phone call to somebody to say, hey, this kid can't play because how do you know?
You think I care who plays on Friday night if I'm not involved in the game? But these parents, like I said, though, they're quick to call and say, you called on my kid or you did this. Remember that group?
Mm-hmm.
Instead of just taking accountability for your actions going to your administration. Both of these athletic directors should be fired. I'm sorry. Like, I mean,
Well,
you're gonna
really
let this
screwed
thing-
up.
You're gonna, and not only that, what about the head coaches? One of the Matanzas head coach has been there for years. You don't know the eligibility rules? There's something wrong with that.
Well, I'll take the coach's side that they should have been notified by the athletic director, because how do they know whether the
Back
kid
when
transferred?
they transferred,
Yes,
not
back
3
then.
hours prior to a game.
Exactly, back then.
Yeah.
Right.
And now I hope they learn a lesson. I mean, Jordan can obviously play quarterback. Let's see if they let him become that or the receiver, because he did a hell of a job with the last minute.
Right.
You know,
under the stress of never having done it before.
No, but yeah. So I'm glad we brought this to attention. We're gonna be following football for the next several months and keep everybody posted, because we got a lot of time on our hands to be able to do that. So, and obviously it's creating a ruckus. So, and we don't care. So
That's right.
Yeah.
This is the ruckus room.
well, have a great day, everyone. We'll see you soon.
See you later.